time, but you know that Albania was known like the land of eagles, and the double-headed eagle shows that Albanians were all unity people, the south and the north, the Albanian inside the official borders and they that were left outside the official borders. Here is Ismail Cemali when he was 68 years old when he declared the independence of Albania. It's written Ismail Cemal Vlora. Vlora was his real surname. By origin, he was from Vlora. Decision. Ismail Cemali was Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs, so he had two posts in that. This was Panoli, Orthodox. Yes, he lived for a long time in America. He was Faiton Nitsa, the first Albanian ambassador in the USA.
Shqipëria është një vend i çuditshëm, edhe sa i përket historisë së saj. Ne predikisht nuk e kemi deklaratën e pavarësisë, na ka humbur. Nuk e kemi flamurin e pavarësisë, edhe atë na e kanë vjedhur. Dhe nuk e kemi as ndërtesën ku u shpall pavarësia pasi ajo është shkatruar. Ka shumë gjëra që nuk shkojnë në vendin ton, por për fat kemi pasur gjithmonë miq. Dhe unë këtë të ende kam vendosur të flas dhe të bisedoj me një nga miqtë e rinj, 10 vjetët të Shqipërisë. Ambasadorën e Shtetit Bashkuara në Tiranë, zonën Yuri Kim. Ma'am Ambassador.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you here.
All right, we're gonna
do this? Cool. Yeah, we need. We're not gonna put much though afterwards. So it's nice to start the interview with you here in Vlora when we got the independence, and almost in the same day when you had the anniversary of the independence of the United States.
Yeah.
It's a nice coincidence.
It's a wonderful coincidence, and I don't think that I was fully prepared for how emotional I would feel coming here, and even just coming up as you did in the stairwell, to look at this painting.
Yeah, I saw you're pretty old from the...
I find this painting very moving because first of all, it's wonderful art, but I look at this image of Albanian unity, and I look at this image of Ismail Cemali, who is leading but is also being led, who is helping but is also being helped. And I look at that lamp, and he's still searching. So it says a lot.
It's also our history. You also see that, I mean, he's running into the dark, following a light, but nothing is safe.
Yeah.
So actually, when I see this picture, and I'm pretty amazed how we got up to here, to be frank. Sometimes we're very critical towards ourselves, but considering our history, we have gone so far.
Yeah, the Albanian people have been through a lot. Yeah, but you're here.
Yeah, we're here, but everything looks fragile yet, as this museum. You know that
it's still standing.
It's still standing. That's the most important thing. But how much do you know before you get to a country? This is not your first assignment, right?
This is what do you mean?
Like ambassador?
Assignment? Yeah. It's my first assignment as ambassador. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I tried to read as much as I could before I came here, but there's no substitute for actually being in a country. And so I've been here for 5 months, and I've tried to travel as much as I could, even with the corona restrictions. And so I've met two of my heroes now, Skanderbeg and Ismail Chamali.
Well, this second guy looks for real. I mean, he was the guy who actually did something very. But did you know that? Because there are two sides of the history: the official one and unofficial one. You know that we have lost the Declaration of Independence and we lost the flag and we destroyed the house when the independence was declared. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the other side of our history.
Yeah.
So it's it's a complicated story, ours.
Yeah.
You know, this is the balcony where they did remember the first year of independence here, and it's a pretty nice view. Also, they say it's very fragile. You have to be very careful when you walk in.
I'm not going to walk out.
Yeah. But this is the only place when we had a picture, a historic picture, a year after the independence with Ismail Chamali and the rest.
I've seen that picture many times.
Yeah. But you know, we didn't know that until a few years ago, that actually it was not the real picture.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the history also has been manipulated very much.
Yeah.
I remember you went to that institute of the, for the files.
The Sigrimi,
Sigrimi files, yeah. And you made a point there, I think, about the full transparency of the past, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. We can go down.
Yeah, all right. So you've been to Vlora many times, obviously.
Yes, I consider Vlora my second city after
that
Tirana.
right?
After Tirana, it's a nice city and a nice people.
Yeah.
Just be careful there. You know, when I'm here and I see those statues outside, because those statues outside are some of the signers of the Independence Declaration. To me, it looks like the Mount Rushmore of Albania.
Yes, you're right.
I mean, I should ask you for other things, but how do you feel about America rewriting its own history about these stories of monuments being removed?
I don't think of it as rewriting its history.
Is it?
No, I don't think of it as that at all. I think there is a constant process of debate, a constant process of discovery, and I think for us, the constant process of trying to make America a more perfect union, right? I actually believe in all this stuff. I don't think it's propaganda. I think it's what makes America great. And I think the world is sad with us in some ways because it's a painful moment for America. But at the same time, I hope the world is also inspired because what we try to do is we don't run away from the problem. We try to face it and we do the best that we can. And sometimes we make mistakes, as any human being does, but we try.
No, but for instance, Woodrow Wilson, I mean, we owe him maybe our statehood. And then when you hear that the Americans want to take him out from wherever he is now as a statue, that's too much for us because it's like he's like our father of our history, of our statehood, and they want to remove it or decapitate Christopher Columbus. That's pretty hard. That's pretty strong stuff. Well, American can handle it, but the rest of the world, is watching.
Yeah. History is complex. Human beings are complex. So we'll see. But I think it's clear that President Wilson played a very important role in the history of U.S.-Albania relations, and I think he should be honored for that.
So we should honor people for what they do, not what they are?
I'm not a philosopher, so-called.
I know you're a pretty practical person.
I'm a very practical person.
And to be frank, I'm pretty amazed how fast you have adapted to Albania, also in a very difficult situation.
You think it's difficult?
Well, I know for you everything is much easier than for us, but still, I mean,
you think so?
Yeah, you have adapted pretty well. Seems you different from the other ambassadors. You have two things: you adapt pretty well, and you don't lose time. Why?
I think that there are many things about Albania and the Albanian people that are familiar to me. And I think it's because...
Korea?
Yeah, definitely, yes.
So tell me something about it.
I'll tell you. So, when I first got here, I met one person, very important person, who told me, I'm a Highlander. I'm from the mountains. And I knew immediately what he was trying to tell me. Because my family is also from the mountains. There's a certain ethos that belongs to people who are from the mountains and who are proud to be from the mountains. And I was telling him, my family happens to be from the coldest part of Korea. So
That's up, going to north.
No, it's in South Korea, but it's the coldest part of the country. And my people are also survivors. They're tough. So I feel a kinship with many Albanians. And then, of course, when I come to a place like Vlora with the ocean, I think of Guam.
Guam, yeah?
Yes, where I grew up, which is, of course, much smaller than Albania is, but it's familiar to me. The closeness, the complexity of problems, the difficulty in solving problems because everybody is related to everybody else. There are no independent strings. Everything is tied together. So I understand, I think.
I'll tease you right now because I know that also Guam is also known as the island of the snakes, right? Many snakes in Guam?
We had brown tree snakes. Yeah.
They are not anymore?
No, they're still there, but it's not as dangerous as people think. They are harmless snakes.
So you used to deal with snakes as well. So
they're harmless.
No surprises there as well, yeah?
No, but Albania is a wonderful country. And it has a rich history. It has tremendous potential, but also some serious problems that you have to work through. And I do see it as, this is not a US project. This is for the Albanian people to decide. You have to want it. I cannot want it more than you, right?
That's true.
And we're here to help as much as we can. It's always been our honor to do that. But in the first instance and in the last, the Albanian people have to demand it. The Albanian people have to want it.
Yeah, but anyway, considering on the other hand, let's say when it comes to justice reform, we all wanted it, and me personally as well. But at the end of the day, it was up to the will of politicians, and I doubt they had the will to do it if it wasn't for you. I mean, for the United States.
I think, Sokol, that I've said this before. Albanian people underestimate their own power and their own importance. There is a trick that politicians sometimes play where they can fool people into thinking that they have no power. But in a democracy, and with all its flaws, Albania is still a democracy. The people matter. You are the masters. So I hope people don't forget this.
Well, people don't forget that, but on the other hand, what they see from the result after 30 years is that actually they don't matter. They do vote, but their will is not being respected by their politicians.
I have a different point of view.
Which is it?
I think that Albanian people matter. I think that what the Albanian people want makes a difference. Change of a dramatic kind is never instantaneous. It's never easy, and it's never a clean, linear movement. Change is always, makes progress in a cyclical way. It's like watching the tide come in or the tide come out. It's not progressing simply like this, right? It goes out, it comes back in, goes out, comes back in. So I think the key is for people not to give up when they see the tide go out momentarily, because it will come back in stronger than ever. I'm an optimist in this sense.
Well, me too, but I'm also realistic. I'm an ambassador when I see, for instance, myself after 30 years. It's like my generation has lost it. And I'm just hopeful that it's going to be the right time for my kids. Otherwise, But you're still optimistic?
I'm always
So you're
optimistic.
saying it's a small tide, it will come back, yeah?
I'm always optimistic. Americans are always optimistic, you know.
Thanks God for that. Okay, I see you later then.
All right,
Thank you.
I'll
See you.
catch up with you,
Yeah,
huh?
say.
Okay.
Bye. Rrugtimin ton të ditë në Vlorë me ambasadorën amerikane e vazhdojmë këtu në bazën ushtarake të Pasha Limanit. The ambassador saw this is an amazing view of the Bay of Vlora, right? And also the history is here as well.
Yeah. Well, I look at history, past, future.
Future, yeah?
Definitely.
That's Russia. That's NATO.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of progress.
Yes.
I remember that actually before you, another ambassador should have come here, Ma'am Kavalets. She was supposed to be like to coordinate, you know, the work against Russian influence, and then she suddenly didn't come. But did you inherit her mission as well? I mean, politically.
Oh, so you know, for us, it doesn't depend on the ambassador. It depends on the president. And the president of the United States remains Donald J. Trump. I am his representative, just as Kathy Kowalik or anybody else nominated for the position would have been his representative. So no change in policy.
Is it true that actually from Albania as well it was lobbied against her coming here?
I have no idea.
You have no idea or no comment?
I have no idea.
So this is a very important piece of history
Yeah.
here as well, and since the Ottoman Empire, Albanians have fought for it, and now it seems that the Turks want it back. Have you heard that?
I know that looking around, I can see why anybody would be interested in Pasha Liman. You know, I think it's really important as we look around the world, we have a clear sense of who our friends are and who our not friends are. And all I would say is that we are proud to be NATO allies with Albania, just as we are proud to be NATO allies with Turkey.
And this submarine here is also a piece of history.
Yeah.
And this also represents a past that we are not very proud of. I mean, the presence of the Russia and Soviet Union here,
Yeah.
the communism.
Yeah.
You know, in this time of changes, big changes, even in the American politics, it seems like United States have lost a bit of focus on the region. Is that so?
I disagree with you. I disagree with you. I think there's a renewed focus on the Western Balkans and what it means to have a U.S. presence here. And I think you're going to see that continue. It's not an accident that we have several very high-powered people who are focused on the Western Balkans, right, including Matt Palmer and Rick Grinnell. And you'll notice, you know, Ambassador Grinnell stepped away from just about everything except for the Balkans issue. And I think that that speaks to the importance we place on it.
To be frank, actually, I know that you're not. I mean, I know that the embassy of Kosovo would have spoken much,
Right.
you know, in larger words about it. But the failure of realizing the first meeting in Washington, actually, it scares Albanians because it seems that they want to represent it as the failure of the politics of the United States in the Balkans.
I think that that is...
Or the game is not over yet.
I think it's overblown, yeah. To call that, you know, a failure, I think, is a mischaracterization. Things happen, you know, so let's see what happens in the next few weeks and months.
One thing that I don't really understand is why this time you have two envoys for the same thing. Why one envoy from the president, one envoy from the State Department? Are they the same thing or sometimes?
So just to clarify, they're both representing the President of the United States.
Yeah.
They're both in the executive branch. And I think some people have made a lot of hay out of this, but I will point out, for important issues, it's not unusual to have more than one envoy. So, you know, 10, 15 years ago, when I was working on North Korea, for example, we had two envoys, same setup. One person was at a more senior rank, who was working on the Korean Peninsula overall. And then we had another person who was working specifically on the North Korea issue. The nuclear issue. So it's not unusual.
How important remains Albania when it comes to the military point of view for the United States?
I think for us it's very important. Every ally that we are side to side with in NATO is important. For Albania, the United States has invested many millions of dollars in the relationship and in trying to improve Albania's capabilities as an ally. And we think that it is money well spent. When we look at the contributions that the Albanian military, that Albanian forces have made, even to include the sacrifice of life from time to time, we are proud to be your ally. I think so far we have provided over $180 million in defense assistance just in the last few years. And I think we're going to see that continue. And we'll see more of this, less of that.
Yeah?
Yes.
Even when it comes to influence, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've said this before, Albanians don't need a lecture from anybody about history. You know it well. And I think you know very well who your friends are and who you can count on when times are tough.
I hope it's you.
It's definitely us.
Thank you.
Great. All right.
Let's have a ride.
Mirë, Ministri i Mbrojtjes, zonja Ulta Gjeshka në portin e Anjes. Ambasadorja Shteteve
So what's the two blows? What does that do? What is it? When
You know, dear bodies, çka kuptimi ke?
last two?
We end. Gati tu pas ta qetso. Stand up and then this I don't know what is
Relax.
relax.
Aha, okay.
So, we have
Got
to,
it.
at least.
I love it. Yeah, it's the best.
You know, this is Sazan, our biggest island,
Yeah.
also known for the snakes, like Guam.
Not at all. This is an exaggeration. I'm sure there's no snakes there.
I'm a journalist, you know, exaggeration is part of the job.
Oh, I know. You guys are the worst.
Ah, come on. Yeah, no, some of us, not all of us. But I heard you also wanted to become journalist when
Yeah.
you're younger.
Yeah.
So, journalist and lawyer, I think?
How do you know this?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's true. You have your own sources. Yeah, actually, I wanted to be a journalist, and I actually was a reporter.
Oh, really?
During the summers, yes. I wrote for the local newspaper and then for my college newspaper. So I think journalists are pretty cool.
It's a tough job, but I think yours is tougher.
You think?
In Albania, especially. Lots of snakes. I mean,
No.
not only Sazan.
No. It's a pleasure to be here. I think for any American ambassador, being in Albania is a dream job because you are surrounded by people who, first of all, they love America. And second, I think it's a place where, you know, we have a very special relationship. It's unlike anything I've ever experienced anywhere else. And the country is going through some pretty important changes. Yeah. And I think we can make a difference. We can make a positive difference.
Yeah, many people think that it's time for a change.
Yeah.
Although sometimes here change is interpreted as just a normal rotation
Yeah.
of power.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm also in doubt about that. Is a rotation a change, or is it a change a rotation?
It's up to you guys to decide.
How do you see it?
I think that rotation of power, if that's what the people want, if that's what they decide, is always a good thing in a democracy, right? It's sort of like the circulation of blood. But it's definitely one of those things where, you know, in my country too, in just a few months, there's going to be an election. And in a few months here in this country, there will be an election, hopefully. And we'll see what the people decide.
Why you say hopefully? You still have doubts?
No, I have no doubt.
For the elections, eh?
No, of course they will happen.
What do you think is going to happen with the electoral reform? Because it seems pretty complicated when it comes to votes.
Yeah.
Because ironically, you have the majority who says, I'm okay with the changes, but I don't have the votes. And then you have also the opposition outside who says, I'm okay with the changes and I don't have the votes. And then the guys who have the votes are not okay with it. I mean, the parliamentary opposition. How do you see that's coming out?
It's complicated because I think the opposition that is out of parliament made a mistake. They shouldn't have walked out, but they did. That said, they also won a lot of votes in the last election. So clearly they represent a significant portion of the population. So they need to be part of the discussion, which is why I think it's a very good thing that they came to the table to negotiate the electoral reform issue. At the same time, the opposition that stayed in parliament did exactly the right thing. In a sense, they saved Albanian democracy. And of course, the majority is the majority. What I do know is that on June 5th, the parties agreed, and as far as I'm aware, they have written up the laws that codify the agreement that they reached, and that's a good thing. My expectation is that they will preserve that. That is sacrosanct.
What is achieved? You mean that
June 5th has to go through as is. You can't open that back up. You can't do it because that would be a violation of a lot of trust. And I think if you give your word, you keep it. As a politician, as a diplomat, if you don't keep your word, you have nothing. So I have every expectation that leaders here will do exactly what they told me they're going to do, which is that they're going to pass June 5th. Now, I'm also aware that for many people, June 5th is not enough. Because what people are talking about when they talk about change or electoral reform is They want open system. And I can understand that, but as I've said before, you know, our immediate goal is very specific. It is to make sure that Albania gets into the EU. The rest of it, if an agreement can be achieved, that's great. Go for it. But what we don't want is a hostage situation where something that is extra holds what is necessary as a hostage.
I understand.
That can't be. And I can't support that.
So that's kind of message that goes mainly for the government, right? Because they have the votes, they have the ability to play with the votes in the parliament. But you're saying the agreement is a no-go area, right?
I'm saying that the agreement June 5th was closed. We can't open it back up again.
But you know, the thing is when we talk about rotation and change, people won't change, and they see the open list as a sign of change, as a sign of taking off so much power from the politicians and handling to themselves.
Yeah.
And that's the saddest moment of the situation, because whatever the politicians want to achieve, they achieve it, and whatever the people want, they don't. And that's why people felt sad.
Let's see what happens.
Talking about because we are now reaching a certain destination, how do you see the European integration process?
I think it's an historic project, and I congratulate the Albanian people and the Albanian government for getting to this point in its history. This will change Albania's future. And I was saying to Luigi Soreka, the EU ambassador, that we are the friend of Albania for the last 100 years, and we want to add the EU as another friend for the next 100 years. I know we talk about what is to be gained by the process. It's not just what is to be gained, it's actually what has to be done. And so this is going to require that the Albanian government and that Albanian political leaders, Albanian lawyers, judges, prosecutors, really join forces to make justice reform real. It's hard. I know not everybody wants it, not everybody wants all the pieces, but it's really necessary. And what I also know is that the vast majority of the Albanian people desperately want it. What I also know is that the American business people that I talk to desperately want it. No one's going to invest in Albania if they don't have a sense that contracts are enforced, that if there's a dispute, if they go to court, they will get a transparent and fair judgment. I'll give you one example. The duty-free situation at the airport. What a shame. When I think of that, I am ashamed for all the people involved in that case. It was a big opportunity. And instead, I think the way that the situation turned out, where a contract was not enforced as it should have been, gives exactly the wrong message. I hope that changes.
How can they change? Because that's the example.
Justice reform, vetting. Judges who are clearly corrupt should be out of there. They should not be sitting in those courtrooms. They should not be making any pronouncements about anything. They should be out of there.
They should be put in jail, actually. I'm saying that. But anyway, for instance, when you see what's going on with the Constitutional Court and all the surrounding people in conflict of interest with it, people lose not only patience, but lose faith.
Yeah.
Because, let's say, before Dvorani was involved, things were going bad. Now that Dvorani is not there, things are going good. So it seems that the moment the justice institutions come into the political balance, politicians are okay with it. The moment they are going to be changed, then they fight for it. So this is the moment when we say, okay, United States were involved, but why at the end they accept compromises?
I think You have to see
Because I don't think for this reform we need compromise.
I think you have to see where the story ends. We're a long way from the ending of the story. I will say to you that I take the vetting process very seriously, and Judge Javrani is one of the judges who clearly passed this very tough process. I have faith in that process, and I have respect for the judge. You know, what happens between now and whoever knows, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think the key point now, in this moment, is that we have the Venice Commission opinion, and it's an opportunity, and I think we need to keep our eyes on the prize and look for ways to keep moving forward. I don't like to get bogged down in theological questions. I don't like to get bogged down in philosophical issues. As I've said before, I'm not a priest to judge who is pure and who is impure. I'm not a police officer to decide who should be in jail and who should not. I'm just an American diplomat. And I am here to represent my country's interests, which happen to include a future for Albania as a strong, sovereign, democratic nation. That's why I'm here, and that's my mission.
You think that the way it's going, we are going to have an independent constitutional court?
I think if you want it and you fight for it and you give it some time and effort, yes, I do believe it. I think what's not going to happen is it's not an instant process. That's not it. It's not all of a sudden you're going to have, you know, a court system that is 100% perfect. If that's your expectation, then you're going to be disappointed. What will happen is you'll see progress, and then you'll see something terrible happen, and then you'll see progress again. As I said before, it's like watching the tide come in and the tide go out. It's not going to be a simple, clear, linear process.
While we are in the water, let's talk about fish or big fishes. We're still waiting for them to be caught. But you're suggesting that we should wait.
I think that...
You know what I am referring to, right? To the big fishes.
You know, I mean, I just arrived 6 months ago, and I know what my job is. So I want to talk about my mission. And as I've said to you many times before, and I think Albanian people know this, I'm a very practical person. And what I have said is that justice reform has to continue. We have to persist. And justice reform has to show results. I'm not the judicial system.
Well,
The United States is not the judicial system. And if you insist that we are, you've misunderstood the project.
No, absolutely not. But we know that without you, we wouldn't even come to this point.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why our expectations are a bit higher when it comes
We
to
will always support you with everything that we have. But at the end of the day, it's your country. It's not my country.
Yeah, I'm just asking. I'm not making a suggestion that you are responsible. But then you see, SPAC is taking the work so slowly. I mean, there is no results. Then you see the National Bureau of Investigation not being.
We saw last week, actually, they made some progress with these cases involving Italian organized crime and Albanian organized crime. So it's happening. And I think we have to keep persisting with the project, because this is the moment at which those who don't want it are going to try to persuade the world that it's not working, and therefore we should throw everything out and declare defeat. Well, I'm not ready to declare defeat, and I don't think the Albanian people should be ready to declare defeat. We are in the midst of the battle. It's time to be brave. It's time to fight. This is not the time to give up.
No, don't worry. I'm not jumping into the water yet.
I feel like it's in there, you know. When I meet Albanian people, especially the young people, and when I go to places like Kruja, when I go to places like the house that we were just in Vlora. It gives me hope, and it makes me believe that there is a lot of courage and a lot of perseverance in the Albanian people. And I think they have been told to give up many times, and they have decided many more times than that not to give up. And this is another one of those moments. We just got to keep going.
Yeah, the whole point is that, as I said, people keep losing hope, and you know, this strait here is the closest point to Italy. You know, only 70 kilometers. And this place here has been like a harbor of the refugees. People used to live from here with boats. Many people died here as well. And today, if you ask the majority of Albanians, especially young people, they don't see a future here. That's what worries me. It's not about me, as I said to you, anymore. You know, I'm 47 now. It's about my kids. So they need to have a future here. But they cannot have a future here where the criminal sits with me in the same table, is being elected into the parliament, or sponsor certain judges and prosecutors. So this has to end. Do you think the justice reform will reach that critical point?
I think justice reform is essential to make the changes that you are talking about. And I said, you know, in my very first speech when I arrived in Albania, that I think it's a terrible thing to see all these young people looking for their future outside Albania. I think it's the responsibility of political leaders. I think it's the responsibility of judges, lawyers, journalists, everybody who has even an ounce of power in Albania to make it better. We will support, but fundamentally, that's not my job. It's your job. And so I'm going to ask you, what are you going to do to make Albania better so that Albanian young people stay? What are you going to do? I've told you what I'm going to do. I want to know what you're going to do.
I promise I'll keep fighting. What has been the most difficult moment until now? Was it that night, you know, shaking that piece of agreement from your compound for the electoral reform, or?
What's been the hardest moment?
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't. I have a very high pain threshold, so I think I have not had a hard moment yet.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
I'll let you know. When
You let me know. Yeah? You let me know. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Enjoy the ride. Rikthehemi në pjesë të fundit të kësaj dite të pazakontë me ambasadoren e Shtetit të Bashkuara në Tiranë, zonjën Yuri Kim. Kam qenë me të në disa prej etapave të ditës saj sot, për të kuptuar më shumë dhe për të njohur më shumë personin, tek i cili shumë shqiptar investojnë shpresën dhe besimin e tyre për gjëra të rëndësishme që po ndodhin në Shqipëri. Sigurisht duke filluar nga reforma e drejtësia, ajo elektorale, por edhe shumë gjëra të tjera të rëndësishme për të ardhmen e vendit. Kështu që do ta mbyll programin me zonjën Kim, duke vazhduar sërish bisedën në mënyrën se si ajo e pa Shqipërinë sot këtu në Vlorë. Ma'am Ambassador, we're at the last, steps of your visit here in Vlora, so I guess this is not the first time you're coming here.
This is actually my first time.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
It's been a full day, and it's been amazing. I had a chance to visit with the mayor. I had a chance to visit with some of the customers at the hotel I'm staying in. You were there when we went out on the Butrinti in Pashan Laman with the defense minister.
Yeah, I got 10 there.
You did get 10. And then I had a chance to visit with some young people at our American corners, and to also visit with some people who have been participating in a USAID program. So it's been a really full day, but I've learned a tremendous amount, and I'm glad I was able to come.
Did you visit any American investment in Vlora, or is there any?
I'm not aware of any right now, but as I said before, as I said to the mayor, I think it's important for Albania to get justice reform and the rule of law really set, because that will attract investors. People will not invest if they don't have confidence that the laws will protect their rights. They will not come if they're not confident that if they go to court, they will be able to get a fair and transparent judgment.
Okay, this is something that I've been hearing from U.S. ambassadors in the last 20 years, but well, I hope that your effort with the justice reform will change that. Because it's, I've nothing against Serbs, by the way, but when you see that Serbia has gotten $2 or $3 billion as investments, and then I think, ironically, I would have taken a couple of bombs so I can have some more investments. But anyway, maybe the state rule of law in Serbia is different than here. What are the U.S. investments in this country then, except strategic, military? You said to me earlier that about $180 million of U.S. investments when it comes to military.
Yeah.
What is the main U.S. investment in this country?
The main US
Political,
investment-
human, whatever.
Yeah, I think we have a very broad investment in Albania. It begins with the military relationship. Security is extremely important. We have been here supporting Albania's development as a democracy, supporting Albania's development of its infrastructure, for example, its health infrastructure. We have supplied many hundreds of millions of dollars over the last 20 years. What I'd like to see, though, is investment as most people understand it, which means American businesses. Really important.
And you said that in your speech in the Senate, right?
Exactly.
One of the three main points that you mentioned there.
That's right.
And actually, I liked it very much
Defense.
because it's the very first time that a U.S. ambassador comes with that kind of agenda. Because I think money changes everything, investment changes everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have three priorities: defense, democracy, business. And to get the business investment, you have to have the rule of law. You have to have a sense of contract enforcement. You asked earlier about other countries. I want to focus on Albania, and I think what's important to recognize about Albania are certain factors, including scale. It's a small market. So the reality is you're going to have to work harder to draw investment than larger economies, right? Because they're larger economies, it's obvious why you should be there. I think with Albania, it's not that obvious. But my job here is to say to American investors, if you come, we will be able to help you make money here. We will be able to help you create jobs in America and create jobs in Albania. So that's my goal.
You said that one of the points of your agenda here is also the democracy.
Yeah.
Is that a real concern? Should we really be concerned? Because, okay, the accusations we hear, we have listened to also media reports when it comes to electoral fraud in the country. I'm not a naive person. I've been seeing things here since 1991.
Yeah.
So I know that a vote here can be bought, it can be sold. But then the opposition has put that in a much higher level as a discussion, which I think it helps solve the issue faster. But I'm not sure if the accusations they are making public are on that scale or not. Does that concern you?
Well, I'm not in a position to judge that, but what I can say is that the OSCE has come up with a set of recommendations, right? This is ODIHR, as you know, and these are part of the requirements for Albania to move forward on its path toward full EU membership. And so in that respect, yes, there are areas that need to be improved. And I think the June 5th agreement helps Albania move forward in that regard.
Do you think that, because one of the things that has happened here, that whoever lost the elections, they never went well with it?
Yeah.
Some didn't recognize it, some they did, but then they opposed it later on.
Yeah.
So it has happened with socialists in the opposition or with the Democrats in the opposition. Do you think that the set that has been agreed on June 5th agreement will also set up a new era on that whoever wins, whoever loses the election actually accepts the result?
I think it's a step forward in that direction. I can't make predictions about what people will ultimately do, but I think you have the elements that allow for a freer and fairer election, something that the Albanian voter can have faith in. So we'll see where we end up.
It's not over yet, as you say, yeah?
That's right.
Let's talk about something that it has really interested me since maybe December 1990, when the Democratic Party was born. And actually the relations with the US were reestablished a few months later. And ironically, I always say that when it comes to the relations between the US and the Democratic Party, the US has lost the track of patient zero, if we're talking with the language of COVID-19. I don't know why, but I always considered the Democratic Party as a political US investiture in this country, but then you always end up having problems with it, not with the party, but with its leadership. Is anything that has gone wrong?
I think that relationships are complex. They change over time, but I think that the relationship between the United States as a country and Albania as a country, Americans as a people, and Albanians as a people remains extremely strong, and I only see it getting stronger.
The other thing that I wanted to ask you is that why you keep forgiving some people that make mistakes and then they still are lulibasha, lulibasha, lulibasha to you?
I'm not quite sure what you mean.
I don't know. It's like since 2019, the political crisis, Mr. Basha has done some, let's say, mistakes that have been considered as mistakes by the U.S. But still, you keep forgiving him.
I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, but my job is not to decide who is the leader of what party. That's for the parties to decide. My job is not to decide who is the leader of the country. That's for the Albanian people to decide. And as a diplomat, I engage with whoever is in power legitimately, and I engage with whoever is able to influence events in the right way.
You say that it's not your job who is the leader of this country. Then why was that strong reaction on March 2nd? Was it only to protect the American flag?
I think that it's very important for people to be clear about what the U.S. position is. I don't represent anybody else except the United States of America. I don't speak for anybody else besides the President of the United States of America. And when I think that there is could be a misunderstanding about where the United States stands or where the President stands, then it's my duty to make sure that the correct perception is able to be expressed.
Maybe for the first time in many years, since 2016, when the justice reform was approved in the Albanian parliament, and today, for the first time ever, we see a certain animosity towards, I'm not saying against, but towards the United States. This is the first time. You know much better than I do that we are a very pro-American country. Many of us think and still believe that we should be like a 51st state of the US. Why do you think this kind of animosity? Is it because of other influences or because of what the US is doing when it comes to justice reform in this country?
I think if you read the national security strategy of the United States of America, it talks about great power competition, the resurgence of great power competition. And I think you're seeing some of that playing out in Albania as well as in the rest of the Western Balkans, the rest of Europe, and the rest of the world. Are there some who like to exploit these issues? Of course. But when I go out on the streets, when I talk to Albanian people, all of them universally express nothing but strong friendship towards the United States. And I hope they know that that sentiment is returned. And I consider it job number one to make sure that that friendship, that alliance stays as strong as possible.
I thank you very much for the day we had today. I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed it knowing you better, and I hope the Albanian people will know you better and see you for what you are, a real American.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for being with me tonight.
Pleasure.
Kjo ishte një ditë e përmbledhur shkurt në pak minuta për shikuesit e mi në program e ambasadores së re të Shteteve të Bashkuara. Siç ta thuaj sërish anglisht, Yuri Kim as you never seen her before. Yuri Kim siç nuk e keni parë ndonjëherë tjetër. Spaku deri tani. Realisori kthehet sërish të hënën në orën 21. Atëherë nga unë Sokol Balla, natë mirë.
There is a trick that politicians sometimes play where they can fool people into thinking that they have no power. But in a democracy, and with all its flaws, Albania is still a democracy. The people matter. You are the masters. So I hope people don't forget this. Albanians don't need a lecture from anybody about history. You know it well. And I think you know very well who your friends are and who you can count on when times are tough. What I do know is that on June 5th, the parties agreed, and as far as I'm aware, they have written up the laws that codify the agreement that they reached, and that's a good thing. My expectation is that they will preserve that. That is sacrosanct. Our immediate goal is very specific. It is to make sure that Albania gets into the EU. The rest of it, if an agreement can be achieved, that's great. Go for it. But what we don't want is a hostage situation where something that is extra holds what is necessary as a hostage. Judges who are clearly corrupt should be out of there. They should not be sitting in those courtrooms. They should not be making any pronouncements about anything. I think what's not going to happen is it's not an instant process. That's not it. It's not all of a sudden you're going to have, a court system that is 100% perfect. And what I have said is that justice reform has to continue. We have to persist. And justice reform has to show results. And I think we have to keep persisting with the project, because this is the moment at which those who don't want it are going to try to persuade the world that it's not working and therefore we should throw everything out and declare defeat. Well, I'm not ready to declare defeat. We are in the midst of the battle. It's time to be brave. It's time to fight. This is not the time to give up. I don't represent anybody else except the United States of America. I don't speak for anybody else besides the President of the United States of America.